That is the question that I was literally just writing on a piece of paper as we hit the go button, Scott and I today at the behind the scenes of the Bold Business Podcast uh, with Jess and Scott. So, to give you a quick update, I am Jess Duell, the host of the Bold Business Podcast, which, by the way, right around now is publishing program 252. So I do hope you stop by, you listen to that program, and leave us a review and tell us what you think. It's about productive leadership, specifically for growth-oriented businesses today. And Scott, please introduce yourself.
Well, I'm usually behind the scenes doing, whatever a person who's behind the scenes doing. But Jess and I used to have a program, and we really enjoyed the banter back and forth. And so we thought, well, try it again and see how that works out. And we've got some extra special things planned for you today as well. So I'm going to toss it back to you, Jess.
Fantastic. So as we're here in this behind the scenes, what Scott has done is created a fun way to go back through clips that I don't know about and he may or may not know about in a queue. And this time we actually have a visual aid. In this visual aid, we have a spinner that clicks and it has music at the end that tells us which clip we're going to listen to. And then Scott and I will respond. So that's how this section of time that we get to spend together live on LinkedIn and YouTube will be spent. Scott, how much time do I need to fill before we get to see this awesome board?
Well, there was something that popped up in front of the awesome board. That's why I had to put my glasses on because that monitor is, like that far away.
Way high?
It's way high and anyway, I think we're ready for it. So
okay.
Shall we just go ahead and do it?
I think so. I think we should just jump into these clips and see what comes out.
Well, okay. Well, all right. And you'll need a little bit of explanation after we spin the wheel. Okay? Does that work for you?
It does.
All right. So here we go. Are you ready?
Ready.
Yay!
Okay,
Number
so
8.
in this
Clip.
bucket. Yeah. Go for it, Scott.
Okay. Well, a little bit of explanation is that we've chosen 12 clips from previous shows, and they were at random, and I don't know what they are, and Jess does not know what they are, but it's more important in terms of Jess because she's going to watch it, as will you at home, and then Jess will comment on it, and we'll just see how it goes. So you are ready, so let's go ahead and do it.
What I talk about in my work and in my book is I have what I call 7 qualities of black belt leadership or 7 qualities of black belt excellence. It first starts with your vision. You need to have a great vision, one that excites you and expands you. The next I call being the change you wish to see, because we live in a world where we are very much awarded for our doingness, if you will. And there's nothing wrong with doing. We have to get things done, but most people look at life from a perspective of have, do, be. When I have enough money, then I'll do what I want to do and I'll be happy. When I have the growth in my company, I'll do the expansion, I'll be successful. But what I found is champions understand you need to flip those words around. You need to look at life from a perspective of be, do, have. So if you want to have a quality that you want to be feeling and experiencing, you start being courageous, patient, trustworthy, whatever. Do the things that support that, and then you can have what you want. Because it always starts from within us.
What a great clip. I was at MicroConf for that live stream that we did. That was a live stream show, and Chris Natsky was talking about everything that it takes to be a champion and the importance of that. Now, he is somebody who does mindset. He's somebody who works with this concept of we build on each achievement, which not only increases our confidence, it increases our experience, and then we get to draw on that, and that's a well. And I always attribute it to like a tree, that the more experience we have, the deeper our roots are, regardless of what we are growing on top of. And so roots will figure out how to go under and around sidewalks, for example, and other tree roots and down into the ground. And deal with rockiness or clay or whatever might come its way. And so that's what I think about when I think about what Chris is talking about here is what is the foundation and how do we build on that foundation? And by the way, anybody who's been anywhere, even like a teensy bit observant about 2020, we get to rely on the roots that we have planted. So in that concept of resiliency planning, it makes me wonder. How much we get to actually spend fixing and building resiliency as we go along, or did we have it? And how much do we get to lean into that during this time? And by the way, I'm working with companies that are in both camps. And the processes are very different. So you can't just say, let's just go like we had a resiliency plan and have done some of that work and can rely on our vision, mission, and values if we hadn't been using them before 2020 arrived. So that's the kind of thing I think about, and that's coming up for me today from the importance of what Chris shared in one of our previous shows. Scott, what would you add to that?
Well, I really thoroughly enjoyed, I remember that show now, and I enjoyed the person, Chris, and I enjoyed what he had to say. And it's, cause and effect. And if I could paraphrase of what I think that he's trying to say is we all want to have the effect. We all want to have the result. And if we want to do that, ahead of time, put together the causes that would naturally flow into the results that we want.
Yes.
So.
But does it always work that way? No.
And then what? Yeah, and then what, Jess?
Well, the point being, the more planning we do, the more we can stay, and the more grounded we can be, so that when the wind comes and the fire comes, which we have a lot of right now in Colorado and even close to Boulder, we've got all of this stuff happening. We won't move as much. So the stronger our foundation is, the better off we are. But it doesn't prevent us from having to deal with the unknown.
A theme throughout a lot of the Bold Business podcasts is self-awareness.
Yes.
So, and that's
it's true. Hey,
it.
Okay, so I want to hear it from you. What do we say on the Bold Business podcast about awareness? What comes to mind is the thing that sticks with you after editing me for years?
I can't remember anything. No. No, I mean it's a ubiquitous. There are so many times that a guest will come on and they will talk about the mind being jumbled up in a way that you're unable to address what the issue or the problem is. You're not able to see it, and the theme on so many different programs and said in so many different ways is calm the mind so that you can clearly see what's out there. And then once you have a better vision of it, you're not being pulled by extraneous things, then you can have better decision making. And in relationship to that, I believe that you have something that you should patent if you haven't already. It's called the Present Retreat.
Yes, it is trademarked. It is ready to go. That present retreat, that time that we take every single week, that time that allows us to think about working on our business so that we know what we're doing in our business actually is the right action to move us toward our goal. And I'm not going to lie. Leadership at the top, even with a management team of 5 to 10 to 20, can still be incredibly lonely. And we get stuck in the day-to-day, and we get stuck being pulled in every direction. And with those truths that are not going to change, they only just get more demanding and more difficult, depending on what is swirling around us, what's showing up for us in our personal lives and our business lives, for our company's life, right? All of those things, our employees' lives, all of that matters more than ever before. And I think that this concept of a present retreat is so that we need to be able to take a step back, because retreat is definitely a little bit for protection, But even more than that, the concept of retreating is to go, what exactly do we have right now so we can make sure we face this to the best of our ability? We know our resources, we know our capacity, we know who is available, we know the money we have to spend, we know what the initiatives are, and that pause, that retreat, and assessment of that just allows us to recognize and remember our foundation.
Are you ready for the next one?
Let's go, Scott, let's go.
So this will be number 2 of 3. And the winner is number 8. Isn't that the one we had before?
It is.
Okay.
We just did number 8.
Well, we have to spin it again. Sorry about that.
More time, and then you might just have to pick them, Scott.
Okay, we have number 1.
Oh, I saw number 8, but that's okay.
No, it came up. It actually landed on number 1.
Awesome. I'm in. Okay.
So queuing up number 1, and here we go. Let's. Got to do that. Okay, so we'll all listen.
In a lot of small businesses or medium-sized businesses, it's an owner fear to share information. But I would say then one of the number one decisions they can make is to get a very strong financial person that they can trust to help them with the decision making. And I see it time and time again where they're scared, right? They've never had to share this information. Their spouse might know about it. Maybe their kids are involved in the business. But after that, and they're worried somebody's going to steal that from them. Having a financial partner that you can really trust and talk about your business with from that perspective is so valuable. I've seen companies launched because the owners, when they took that burden and put it on someone else where they could do their creative, whether it was sales or product development, what they really did well, their business exploded. So I've seen that time and time again.
Oh, this clip, Steve Roswald from CFO University is an incredibly amazing person, and he not only does he bring his experience, he has created this place for financial focused individuals and executives to learn and grow and interact with each other. And I always have an interesting view and relationship with that concept of the financial planning piece and the way that we use data to make decisions. And I'll tell you what, he has taught me so much at this point of my career, and what I have been able to learn from him to utilize within Red Direction has been spot on. And so I'm thinking about what he's saying, and he's talking about succession planning. He's talking about what's next. He's talking about knowing where you're going and understanding the financial piece, understanding what's needed to get to those goals from that picture, because our numbers tell a story. They tell us where we've been over time to the moment we are right now. And so as we're going forward, the financial piece is such a big, important part of that, because we can recognize how much profitability do we have right now, and what is the most profitable thing we're doing. It can also tell us things like, help us figure out what's really important. Like every business, I'm going to think about Jim Collins. He is like my go-to person for this concept of the economic engine. We have this, when we can run our business from one number, one ratio, profit per X. This keeps coming up right now as I'm working with companies to reimagine where they're at, looking at their strategic plan, what was for right now, and adapting that based off of capacity and the actuality of the company for what is coming and what is achievable in 2021. So this economic engine piece, well, what is the thing that you can use to be a little bit like a North Star to make all your decisions from? And if something doesn't fit into it, it's not the right equation. And this is not an easy thing to find. We can say it's going to be this, And we can think it's that, but until we look at all of the decisions that we have been making to tie back to what some of those numbers actually are, we don't have that true check and balance, which I think is an incredibly important piece. So, and what if we want to grow? What if the economic engine, like, for example, is limited, like specifically around billable hours? If you work in a role where every single time you work is how you make money, you can only grow to the point to the amount of time that you want to work in a day. And then you have to add another person, and that's the case. You can also change. So that's an easy way to say, here's where we're at, but we can also change that. We can say it's profit per customer. We can say it's profit per visit. We can say it's profit per bottle or product or something like that we get to bring to the table. And until we have the financial piece to like lay on top, if we're more of an organizational or visionary organization, we're missing a big piece. And that's something that Steve brought to the table in his multiple visits to the Bold Business Podcast.
Yeah. Steve reminds me that it's lifelong learning. You no longer can go to college and get your degree and go out into the workforce and you're set for life. You have to, and that's what part of Bold Business Podcast is all about, is lifelong continuing learning, and that's what CFO University is for that, for that aspect of the multidimensional part of what some of the business leaders today have to keep up with. Either new ideas or ideas that they've forgotten about. It's just keeping up to date.
Yeah. I'm ready for the next one if you are.
I'm setting it up as you and I speak, so here we go. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna fill space. I don't need to fill space. Let's go.
Okay.
Let's spin this
right.
wheel.
Here we go. Okay, number 11.
Okay.
Shall we just go right to it?
Let's jump right into it. I'm ready.
The way I know in the work I do is by listening to the language that each parent uses when speaking about the other parent. And you can pretty quickly tell if this is just the way a person talks or if their language changes when they start talking about that other parent. So they might be talking about a coworker or their sibling or their friend or neighbor, and they use certain language, and then they talk about their ex or soon to be ex, and their body language changes and their attitude. Yes, exactly. their attitude. You need to do that again.
I need.
Yes, because that was good. That was good. I've seen that look. I have seen that look.
You have, haven't you?
I have.
Me too.
But their whole demeanor changes and their language changes, and they use derogatory comments. And I'm thinking to myself, if you're talking this way to me, who is a professional that you're working with, I can only imagine when you're at home talking to your children, how you're talking about that other parent. And so I've got to get them off of doing that. And I also remind them, however you're talking with your child here about the other parent, they are probably talking that way about you in the other parent's home. So you want to watch how you train your children to talk, because if you're negative and gossipy and derogatory with you about the other parent, they're going to be that way there towards you.
You know, Marlene was talking specifically about navigating difficult relationships around divorce, which, by the way, one of the reasons I brought her on as a subject matter expert is because what is going on outside of our professional life impacts us when we are sitting at our desk in a video call, on the phone, having a conversation, and doing our work. And I think that that's an important part of bringing it together, and all of the elements that she brought to the table for what to show up with, how to be open, being willing to look for the opportunity where everybody gets something that they want and still compromising as little as possible is an important piece. And I would say during where we're at right now, our personal lives and our work lives, if we thought we could ever leave that stuff at the door, we now know that that's impossible. Not to mention that whether we have one person in our house and we're just feeling all alone all the time, or we have 7 people in our house because we have a big family or extended family that's all living under the same roof, you're all up in each other's business all the time. It's not just breakfast and dinner and the weekends anymore. It's for school, it's for work, it's for all different kinds of things. And I have to tell you that that kind of a stress is something that it happens sometimes. And when one person has a stress or a stressor that's pretty big, we can kind of work together with it and absorb it. But we all, every single one of us must show up in a different way because we all have that kind of stress right now, which means our capacity is a little less expansive as it once might have been. And that means that we have more fatigue, we're worn out, we are distracted more easily. It takes us longer to get into a focus space, whatever that may be, and having a little bit of acceptance and grace and making sure that you recognize that you're feeling it, and that every single person, regardless of age, regardless of whether they're under your roof or the same roof with you or under a different roof, that they're going through the same thing. That is something that I think is important for us to think about today, specifically when we're thinking about success. Our capacity is actually different. So to expect work to be done at a higher point for a longer period of time is a little unreasonable. No, it just is. It's not a little, it just is unreasonable. We have to understand what our capacity is. We have to understand what our goals are. We have to be realistic about the time that it takes. And then we get to go do it and have fun in that and not worry about being late, not be stressed out that we're always behind, that our to-do list is just getting bigger, because we spent some time thinking about it up front so that we could be open and ready to show up to whatever shows up in our day, which could be difficult, it could be easy, it could be exciting, it could be scary. You name it, that's a feeling that we're probably feeling right now.
And the other side of the coin is we're going to find ourselves in all sorts of different circumstances. So how can we optimize, regardless of the circumstances that we find ourselves in? How can we optimize things so that it is as good as it can get? And how do we measure that? And how do we know that we're successful? So during these times, we now have work. We're working from home. A lot of us are. And family. Or we have family at home, but we still have to work in the front lines. It's a different circumstance. So how can we optimize it? And if we fall a little bit short, are we measuring the right things? Is it that we're really falling short, or are we doing magnificently given the circumstances? It's that self-knowledge, I suppose, going back to that theme as well.
That's an example of the awareness we talk about on the Bold Business Podcast, Scott.
And if people want to know more about the Bold Business Podcast in Red Direction, what do they do?
Go to reddirection.com and you can click on podcasts to see the latest and greatest, in addition to amazing articles that are written for you for each podcast. And not only that, go to whichever platform that you listen to audio on, start pressing those buttons, search for Bold Business Podcast, and we will magically appear because we are on all of the major platforms that you may want to be listening in on. So thank you so much for joining us today for this awesome wheel. I'm excited to have that upgrade, Scott. That's pretty cool. And then from there, we will see you again soon.
Bye-bye.